Electric vehicles are no longer just a stylish trend, but the main development direction for most cars manufacturers today. Electrification of the transport is a multi-aspect subject, but today we will be focusing on its impact on heat treatment market. So please let me welcome our today's guest, Professor Piotr Kula, retired Director of Institute of Materials, Vice Rector of the Lodz University of Technology, and the founder and the board member in Hardtech Hardening Plant. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Mr. Paweł Szuflak, Sales and Marketing Executive in Skoda Volkswagen Group, today with us online. Hello. Mr. Piotr Skarbinski, Seco Warwick Vice President responsible for aluminum process and control atmosphere brazing segment. Hello.
Hello.
And my name is Richard Rutkowski, and I will be your host during this panel. Well, electric cars, what are the foundations? What is the current situation? And what will bring the future? This is the question that I would like to ask to Mr. Paweł Szuflak.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends in which time zone you are at the moment. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to get this invitation and to be together with you today. Thank you very much, Richard. My presentation is about trends in the automotive industry. The question is, what is our future? Almost all of us is using in some way passenger cars. And of course, it's the very important part of our life. And we are at the stage where probably we are at the moment that one of the biggest changes, one of the biggest revolutions in the history of the automotive industry is going to happen in coming years. But before I'm going to talk about it, I am presenting you at my front page the very nice view. We are in the middle of Europe. This is the very nice plateau on the border between Czech Republic and Poland. And this place is called Jizera. And the Jizera is a very, very nice, quiet place. People are spending there the nice time. But today, this is the rather tourist place. But I would like to move some more than 100 years back to the history, because it was the place where the very nice village at the bottom of this area was constructed, was built, and there was somebody who was born in this place. It was year 1875, and just 25 years later, in such kind of the nice looking house, the young gentleman, here I have a face of this gentleman, started to construct his cars. And maybe you don't know, maybe it's not a very well-known fact, but this person has become one of the most important people in the automotive history because he has created the most popular car in the automotive history from the number of the produced cars, and also he has been the father of the one of the biggest automotive group in automotive industry. Maybe this face doesn't show you so much, but I am having also his picture from the much later. It's a picture from the 50s. And if you still don't know who it was, I can give you the small hint. It was Ferdinand Porsche. Ferdinand Porsche was born in the 1875. And what it has what kind of the relation it has with the today revolution in automotive history, and why I am coming back so much back into the beginning of the 20th centuries. I would like to tell you why. Because just in that place, in the year 1900, so he was at that time 25 years old, constructed one of his first cars. Together with another gentleman, Mr. Lohmann, Lohmann Porsche, that was the name of the brand, they have built the car, which got the very, very symptomatic name, very remarkable, because this car got the name the Sempre Vivus. In English, it means always living. Why always living? Because this car had hydro, had the I am lost. Had the hybrid had the hybrid fuel, had a hybrid engine, and this car was one of the first almost fully electric cars in the automotive history. The engines were not so impressive. It had the two small electric engines and two small petrol engines. And the car was super heavy, 1.8 tons. And in fact, it was one of the first attempts to make the normally working, normally living electric cars or combination cars in the automotive industry. This car was just only prototype. It was not so reliable. And the next model, which the both gentlemen, they have created, it was already much more successful. They sold 11 cars, which was at the time the quite big success in the automotive industry. It was still before the serious production. And I have to tell you that why I am talking about it, because today, 120, 130 years later, we are coming back into this technology, and most probably it will have the big influence on this, how we will drive the cars in the future. But let's come back to the current times. If you are interested, you can visit this house. My company has renovated this house and transformed it into the museum and the meeting place. I think that if you will be nearby, I would like to invite you, go there, see there, and feel the atmosphere of one of the biggest engineer heads in the history of the automotive industry. But let's come back to the cars and to automotive industry. Today in Europe, I'm talking mostly about Europe, we have 210 million cars which are registered in Europe. This is a huge number, yeah? So it means that more or less every household in Europe has own car, even more than each one car is in each household. And just to give you the one example, in Poland we have the 600 cars registered per 1,000 citizens in Poland. So these numbers are really huge. Do we need such kind of the big amount of the cars? I can tell you my personal opinion is not. And one of the reasons why so many cars is registered is that we have really a lot of cars which are very old aged, which were not recycled, which were not deregistered, and unfortunately, it makes that the car park is relatively old, and it creates also another pressure because the average emission of the CO2 with the currently used cars on the roads is more than 130 grams per kilometer. And this has the very big influence. This is the very important factor on this, how in the future we have to manage our behavior in our transportation mode. 70% of cars in Western Europe are registered by companies. So these cars are not private. It's the kind of the combination of the usage in the business and in the private life. This is the one fact. And another one is that in each transportation, in each way, in each road which the car is passing, we have at average only 1.3 passengers. For governments, automotive industry today is very important because it depends on the country. It creates 5 to 12% of the incomes of the national public incomes in the countries. And just again, one more information in Poland. 4 Polish cities are in the top 20 most jumped cities in European Union. So even Poland, where theoretically the automotive industry is still in the development phase, we are already meeting a lot of challenges related to this industry. 50% of all transportation processes, transportation modes are proceeded in cars. 20% of the people in the European Union spend more than 90 minutes daily in transport. And just one information, maybe some of you know Netherlands with the very, very dense highway network, they just are implementing the general speed limit of the 110 kilometers per hour on highways. Germany still has some roads, some highways which have the completely no speed limit, but there is also very intensive discussion about the putting such kind of the speed limit to the 130 kilometers. Why? Because of the consumption and because of the CO2 emission. So these are our challenges of the current times. So are the automotive companies, is automotive industry already prepared for the situation which we are meeting today? I would say many of the companies is doing a lot of attempts in this direction. And I would like to present you, to show you just one example. This is the Volkswagen Group importer in the Netherlands, the first importer of the Volkswagen brand, one of the strongest business partners of the Volkswagen Group, Group PON in the Netherlands. They already decided to go in the direction of the offering of the mobility solutions. So PON Group signed the agreement with the Dutch government to transform the normal driving of the car into the combination of the different transport modes. So train, taxi, electric bicycle, normal bicycle, traditional bicycle, subway, bus, whatever transportation, public transportation mode is available. And they are offering the card which is giving the people mobility. If you look on the mission statements of the different groups, automotive groups today, they do not claim we produce cars, we offer cars. We offer today mobility solutions, and this is the way how do we want to develop the automotive industry also into the near future. But let's come back to the passenger cars. And of course, today, with the really a lot of efforts and engineering power, we meet today different type of the fuels. And most of the fuels are the fossil fuels. Unfortunately, also hydrogen, which is offered today on the market, is the fossil fuel. So we have to produce it from oil. We have to produce it from the coal. So unfortunately, this is definitely not the clean energy like everybody is saying, but the big trend, the mega trend of the transformation of the automotive industry has started. So we have traditional gasoline, we have LPG, CNG gas. We have biogasoline with the mixation of the traditional gasoline and the bioethanol. We have the variations of the gasoline cars with the mild hybrid, with the full hybrid, with the plug-in hybrid, and with the full electric cars. What is the difference between those cars? The mild hybrid has usually the small installation with battery and with the possibility of supporting the car with the starting the car, accelerating the car. HEV is the solution which is the most famous today, known from Toyota. It uses energy from the recuperation. So basically, the car does not require a connection to the electro power. All power which is used in the car requires the recuperation and use the energy, kinetic energy, which was already used in the car. Last but not least, we have the PHEVs. The PHEVs, they use batteries and electric engines, and the car can run even more than 550 kilometers up to the 100 kilometers on the full electric engine. And then we have the full electric cars. And then last but not least, we have the fuel cell. We have the combination of this hydrogen energy, and I would say, do we have something more? Frankly speaking, everybody is really working intensively on this to look for the new way how we can put energy into our cars into the future. Not only cars, but also all machines and all transportation modes. But again, we come back to the restrictions, and we have the CO2 emissions. We have something what is called Green Deal, new Green European Deal. European Union has announced we want to reduce emission of the CO2. So the traditional modern gasoline car produce around 110 grams. So of course we already reduced significantly emission of the CO2. Then we have the MHEV cars. They are luckily already below 100 grams. Then we have the HEV cars, 80 grams. PHEV cars, if you use this car properly, if you load the energy, and I am not talking about the source of energy, I'm talking about the only emission of the cars, then the car produce 30 grams of the CO2 per 100 kilometers. And then last but not least, today, the proven technology, the cars are already running on the streets, the cars are already working. We have the full electric cars with batteries, and they produce around 0 grams per 100 per kilometer and per 100 kilometers. We have another trend which is coming into automotive industry. The pressure from the governments, the pressure from European Union, the costs of the energy production, the cost of fuel production, the cost of putting the new technologies into the cars, which supports reduction of CO2 and other pollutions from the cars. They push that the prices of the cars are becoming higher and higher. On the other side, we have the electric cars. These cars, they are getting better and more proven technologies. There is a lot of efforts done from the different suppliers and manufacturers to reduce the cost. Today, in fact, the battery is the most expensive part of the car, and there is really massive effort to reduce those prices in the future. So there is the expectation that somehow before year 2030, the electric cars, similar by size and by comfort and by equipment, will be already cheaper than the traditional petrol or diesel cars. So, what is the future? What is gonna to happen? And for the fans of the electromobility, I have the good news. We will electrify. For the fans of the traditional fuels and traditional engines with the very loud sounds and maybe 6, maybe 8 cylinders, I have unfortunately the bad news, because with all the restrictions, with all conditions which we are meeting today, most probably we will have to trend only to the BEV technology. There is some discussion. I put it still as the chance, as the possible future. It's the synthetic gasoline, which significantly reduce emission of the CO2 in the total production process and also in the emission. But frankly speaking, this is still the discussion, and this is still effort done from the suppliers, and probably the cost of such kind of the gasoline will be possible only to use it in the most expensive and sporty cars. How about the fuel cell? The fuel cell, as I mentioned, hydrogen is the question of source of the hydrogen. And the second point today, the production of the hydrogen is really, really costly. Maybe this is the technology of the future, but for the next 20, 30, maybe even 50 years, in my personal opinion, technology, this is the only one reasonable solution for the passenger cars. What will happen in Europe by 2030? So, as I mentioned, the new Green Deal, everything what is going to happen will trend to this, that just in the 8-9 years from today, even 80% of the all new produced cars in Europe will be electric cars. At the front of this race is Norway. Norway has announced that in the 2025 they are going to stop registration of any new fossil fuel cars. And the other countries are coming in that way. So I have to say the revolution, in fact, already has happened, and we are participating actively in this revolution. Of course, it will be not the same in the all countries. In Europe, if you look, we have the zone where it will be, this trend will be the fastest. I mentioned already Norway. We are talking also about the other Scandinavian countries, also Netherlands, also Luxembourg. Those countries, they are having a very, very strong trend in that direction. Frankly speaking, I am not surprised about the Dutch colleagues, about our Dutch neighbors from Netherlands, that they trend so fast into the change of this technology. If you, as you probably know, the most of the territory of the Netherlands it's placed below the level of the sea. So the one of the warm effect, increased temperature on the earth, is increase of the sea level. So they are really today fighting for their survival, and they are really fighting for the survival in the coming years. Then we have the countries, let's say, from the most advanced and most rich European countries. They already have the trends. The Germany have the very strong program supported by government. You can, in fact, you can buy electric car even today already with the government support cheaper than the traditional car. And then we have the Southern and Eastern Europe where I am expecting, and not only me, but many experts expecting that probably this transformation will run a little bit slower, and we have to give to those countries a little bit more time. A little bit similar situation will be in the entire world. You can see the Russia, definitely they are not in the hurry. They have a lot of oil, they have a lot of gas, they don't need to speed up, and they don't feel it that they need to participate in this race. Then of course we have the African countries and the South, some Asian countries, and we have the southern part of America. They will probably transform a little bit slower. Then we have the two green islands, part of Europe, and in fact, Australia and the New Zealand, they are joining this process very, very fast. And then we have the China and America. The both regions, they talk a lot about the new technologies and the electrification. American President John Biden said in the 2030, I want to have 50% of the newly registered cars in United States, which will be not with the fossil fuels anymore. But those cars which are still with the fossil fuels, with the 5 liters engines, I think that they still will produce a lot of CO2 in coming years. So we are in the middle of the revolution. The world is changing. The cars, the electric cars, we are expecting that will be even 150 new electric cars models in the coming 5 years. So basically, offer of the electric cars will beat the offer of the traditional cars. Many of the car manufacturers announce already that they are going to stop the traditional engines in the coming years. And this is today forced by the climate situation, forced by the government's regulations and changes in the technologies, this is probably the straight and almost only one way in passengers cars industry. At the end, I just wanted to mention I am already the happy user of electric car. You can see here my Skoda Enyaq. I'm driving at home and at work. We went together with my family, together with our family. We went this year to Croatia. Altogether 2,500 kilometers. I drove already more than 20,000 kilometers with electric cars. If you ask me what do I like more, I have to say it's a completely different experience. The car, electric cars, is absolutely comfortable. Electric cars is absolutely quiet. It has really a lot of very good features. Of course, our engineers, they try to put the best into the car to make it as friendly as it possible. But also on the other side, this is not the life like we used to have in the past. I can only give you the one example. The average speed I'm traveling, it's at least 20 kilometers less on the highways today than I used to do it with the still traditional cars. And last but not least, from the Netherlands, as you can see, these packages of the mobility is already working here. I am experiencing one of the projects available in the Netherlands.
Well, that was a quite interesting speech. I believe some of our viewers didn't notice that actually the electric cars was the first invention before the internal combustion engine was developed. My second question goes to Professor Kula. Professor, assuming that the electric transformation is inevitable, what does it mean for heat treatment market? Is it a kind of chance or maybe a kind of threat?
In my opinion, it is definitely a challenge. Heat treaters afraid a drastic decline in the volume of orders will really be a revolution or an evolutionary adaptation. In my opinion, it should be a feedback, but very challenging. My advice is don't afraid, but act. So, the first issue we should take into account, the horizon of change depends on many conditions. As you can see, the electric vehicles, hybrids, and the traditional oil gas driven vehicles will coexist with us for the long time. Let we look on the electric vehicles hierarchy. So generally, electric vehicles are classified into two groups, basic groups: the battery electric vehicles and fuel cell electric vehicles, and hybrids in different modes coexist with them. I'm personally the happy owner of hybrid car, and in my opinion, for today, it is very comfortable car, both for long distance traveling and for city running. And in my opinion, this option will with us for the long time. So we should be happy because hybrid contains the traditional solutions and the new one. This is the good chance for the development and adaptation to new technologies. So the most common development trends today goes towards the battery electric vehicles. But unfortunately, the batteries are limited by battery trilemma. So both high energy and fast charging and durability of batteries are still not satisfactory for the long distance traveling and comfortable usage of electric cars. Of course, it will be improved every day, every week, but the questions about the horizon of this trend. So, The energy capacity is also the barrier for heavy electric vehicles. If we consider the heavy trucks, the road machines, the military heavy trucks, so they for a long time will use the traditional solutions in driving. So the next issue we should take into account is that the whole car does not change, but only or so much the power generation and transmission systems. But let we analyze now what disappears and what remains in the technology. Of course, the fuel engines volume will be decreased, and a lot of parts treated by carburizing, vacuum carburizing, quenching also will disappear, like injection nozzles, like camshafts, like crankshafts, etc., etc. So also the transmission will the volume will decrease. So a lot of gears, transmission gears. This is also the range of parts very focused on the advanced heat treating. We should remember that simultaneously the volume of machining tools for machining of gears will decrease. This is also the problem for the heat treaters in the future. So the traditional gas exhaust systems disappears. The gas exhaust maybe not heat treated. Although the annealing also is concerning this parts, but the dye industry, all these exhaust parts need the advanced equipment. But the rest of car remains. So, for example, the driving systems, the hanging of cars, the safety systems, the brakes, everything is the same. So this volume is stable, in my opinion. But new challenges appear. These are batteries. These are light metal alloys. The limited capacity of batteries needs the less mass for driving. Therefore, the aluminum and other light metals alloys will develop. So here we can expect the intensive growth in the volume of orders, and this is the great challenge for us. And the very important group of components, automotive components, these are effective heat exchangers. Both this so traditional, like for mild hybrids drives, and also this new one with the new large dimension dedicated to the batteries heat exchange. This is also the increasing volume of orders and the great challenge. So, concluding, the new technological challenges in this field are as followed: the heat treatment of light metal alloys, of course. So the next very important, the brazing of highly efficient compact heat exchangers, and manufacture of metal oxide and sinters of them. So, and production and processing of materials with controlled porosities, especially for batteries, for example, for hydrogen storage systems, and materials based on allotropic forms of carbons like graphite, nanotubes, graphene, etc. Also for hydrogen storage, also for electrodes of lithium-ion batteries. And what about the global conclusions? In my opinion, there are at least 2 more generations of traditional heat treatment devices and technologies ahead of us. Secondly, this is at the time for intensive research and development and monitoring of development of global electric vehicles technology trends. So investment risk will be favored by the outsourcing of heat treatments. Each new order is much comfortable to do with help of professional service heat treaters. And finally, we probably still do know not future technology leaders.
Well, thank you very much for the knowledgeable answer. As far as I can see, it referred not only the parts of the car, but also entire process of car manufacturing, right? So entire change, starting from the production, from the raw material, ends up on the cars. And of course, both cars give us a chance for heat treatment, the traditional one, as well as the electric vehicles, hybrids, and the hydrogen concept for the car.
That's right.
So, great. Thank you very much. My another question I would like to dedicate to Mr. Piotr Skarbinski. Mr. Skarbinski, SECO Warwick is considered as a well-known supplier of the equipment for automotive market. In terms of control atmosphere brazing, the company is holding a leader position since many, many years. Please tell me, what's the secret of that kind of success? What stands behind that success?
Yes, I think there are no secrets. But there are some important factors which allowed us to keep a leading position through all these years. The first factor is technology itself. It was developed back in 70s by company Alcan. They developed a flax, which is a kind of salt, potassium fluoroaluminate salt. Known under a commercial name Nokolog. And this technology allows, this salt and technology allows to braze aluminium parts in a protective atmosphere. The method is, and the salt is not corrosive, is not soluble in water. It's quite environment friendly process comparing to some previous known corrosive brazing. So from 80s, it became a leading process in manufacturing of heat exchangers. And the technology was, has been popular for 40 years. It's a big growth of this technology and industry through all these years. First of all, the number of cars produced today is much larger than, for example, in 80s. The second thing is that the average car today, if we talk still about the standard fuel car, has many more heat exchangers. Back in 80s, average car had just 2 heat exchangers, the radiator and heater core for heating of passengers compartment. But for example, small Fiat 126 had no heat exchangers at all, since the engine was air-cooled. Today, the modern car can have 10 and more heat exchangers, including air conditioning systems, including oil coolers, including church air coolers for most efficient engines. So the growth of technology is huge, and through all these years there was a need to deliver new cab lines, more and more cab systems for this process. Also, outside automotive industry, there are many applications of this technology. Just to say about off-road machines, military vehicles, industrial applications like electric power plants, windmills. Today, more and more popular worldwide windmills, they all have a huge heat exchanger to cool the oil of transmission, which is included in the head. So all these factors allow to grow the technology, and together with that, we were a big significant part of that. The second factor is our own experience. In fact, Seco Warwick USA was the first company in the world which made a first cab line back in 1983. And with this cab line started our experience and our cooperation with the industry. A very important step was year 2002, when we bought intellectual property of a company, Chemlow. Chemlow was the leading company in cab systems for European market, and in 2002 they stopped activity. We were able to not only to buy the intellectual property, but also we came to the position of Chemlow in front of our European customers. Today, our furnace is very much different and more advanced than Chemlow designs, but these customers that we came in 2002 are still with us. The third factor is that we are not only able to just deliver the equipment, but we are also able to provide technical support to our customers. In 2007, we set up a brazing center here in Świebodzin, which is equipped with a furnace. It is not just a laboratory furnace, it's industrial style, I would say full-size semi-continuous furnace, where it is possible to braze practically any type of heat exchanger which is known in the industry. So we invite our potential customers to our brazing center, where is a possibility to optimize the design of a heat exchanger, of the fixtures, where it's possible to find the proper process parameters. So it's a great help for our customers. And the last but not least, the fourth factor is that we established already more than 10 years ago our subsidiary in China. This company is dedicated for cab production of cab systems. Simply, many years ago already, we observed that our main customers, our global customers for cab systems, they are moving to China, since this is the most high growing market for cars, automotive market. So our customers came to be part of that, and we also came on that market. Today, also in China, we are a leading company which is delivering combined design equipment, which is still under development continuously by our Polish and Chinese engineers. We supply local market, we supply also in overseas countries the equipment which is made in China. Our company in China today makes more than 10 cab lines per year, which is practically even more than our company here in Świebodzin. So I think these four factors are important ones to be considered if we talk about our success.
So I guess it's never just the one thing, it's always a combination of several factors that are leading us to the success. So that was, well, quite challenging, I believe, situation, and it was going through a many years, right? So it was not something that happens from one day to another. So
yes, it's continuous cooperation with our customers, and we can say when we discuss internally that today our main customers and engineers on customer side are the people that we know very well for 20 years, and we have continuous and very, I think, fruitful cooperation for both sides.
great. Keeping my fingers for further success.
Thanks.
You mentioned it about the conventional cars, that they have several heat exchangers on board. And but how about the electrical vehicles? We know that the situation is a little bit different. The powertrain is different. The heating management is a little bit different. What does it mean for a control atmosphere brazing situation? Is it a chance or maybe a threat for a CAB technology? Electrical vehicles.
Well, first of all, we think, observing the market and observing the requests from our customers, that the change will be very significant. If we look at the general numbers, and even if we focus on two significant markets like China and Europe, for example, in Europe, in 2020, 12 million cars were sold, and just 5.5% of them were e-vehicles and plug-in hybrids. In China, 25 million of cars were sold last year, and 5.2% of them were e-vehicles and hybrids. And one could say that this is not too much, but the drive and goals and strategy of the governments, Chinese government and let's say European Union Parliament, they are very strict and very much demanding. So, for example, in China, official strategy is that just in 2025 there should be 20% of the cars registered which will be e-vehicles and plug-in hybrids. But if we discuss this, for example, with our Chinese colleagues, they say that the percentage may reach 30 or 35%, because everyone is focused on this goal. Similarly, in Europe, there are more general legislation in Europe which is focusing on emission level. So in 2030, the emission level should be reduced by 55% comparing to 1990. But in 2050, European law is to be totally ambient, to reduce to zero the CO2 emissions. So the drive is huge, and even if we don't see, for example, today on the street in Poland too many e-vehicles on the road, we really believe it will change quite quickly. The subsidiaries for electric cars by the government should grow. Also, the technique development of batteries should make them lighter and more powerful. On the other hand, the standard fuel engine cars will be more and more expensive, since the emission standards are growing, and it will be more and more expensive to design the car with lower emission. So the prices will equalize, or even the electric cars should be cheaper in a soon time. And we see very much that our customers, I think they are also driven from car manufacturers, the heat exchangers manufacturers are very much focusing on that and are preparing the infrastructures for this huge change. And what this change means for us? Yes, majority of the heat exchangers will disappear. All the heat exchangers which are related to the standard fuel engine will no longer be required. So we expect that our business for standard size type line will also be reduced significantly. But in exchange, there is a very significant demand of new systems which are dedicated for battery coolers. It is not only the cooler, since we can say that this is some base of the battery which is responsible for keeping the battery in the right temperature. Every battery has some range of temperatures where it works in a most efficient way. But popular name in the branch is just a battery cooler. At the beginning, there were many designs of these heat exchangers, since there were many concepts of batteries itself from different car manufacturers. Today, we observe that most of car manufacturers are coming to one concept, which is just a very large flat plate, which is placed on the floor of a car, as large as possible in a case of purely electric vehicle. The space is limited mainly by the wheels area. And this plate is braced in a cab line. Of course, the cab line needs to be specially designed for that. What are the differences? First of all, as I said, the plate is large, so also the cab line has to be larger. For example, the belt width, when normally the belt is for standard heat exchangers can be between 800 millimeters to 1.6 meter. The belt width for battery coolers is about 2 meters, even to 2.5 meters. The second thing is that, at least today, the battery coolers, to be braced, they need to be placed in a special fixture, which is quite heavy, which is much heavier for the calculating for the surface than standard heat exchanger. So the cab line has to be prepared for that, has to be heavy duty with a heavy belt supports. The drive also must be much stronger. The third thing is that such a wide furnace, it has still to have a good temperature uniformity. So there are special designs also which allow to keep the required temperature uniformity for the heat exchanger. So we designed such a furnace. We delivered already more than 10 projects for such a cab line for battery coolers, for European and Chinese market. And we see a great interest from the customer's side. There are, of course, well-known, renowned customers who have a lot of experience in brazing of heat exchangers. They are entering that market, but there is also many potential customers who learned that this is the growing business for future, and they try to enter the market. And in this case, again, our brazing center helps us a lot, helps also a lot our customers to develop new designs of battery coolers, heat exchangers, fixtures to make prototyping and so on. Okay. So at least in the short term scale, we see a bright future in front of us with CAP technology. For longer term, of course, the development of in automotive industry is huge, and nobody knows what will bring the future. Yes, could be some alternative methods will be used, like glowing, like induction heating, like entering the combining the heat exchangers with the chassis of the car. This may influence the technology, but it will not happen, I think, in next few years.
Okay. So even if some doors will be closed, the several others will remain open by electrical vehicles. We can call it that way. Okay. So,
Yes.
and probably it will not be a kind of revolutionary change. It will be an evolutionary change. So step by step, and it will be in a long term, as you said. Okay.
Yes, however, the requirement will be very significant if we count how many cars is produced. It will change quite significantly the branch.
Okay. Okay. Getting back to Professor Kula, Professor, we know that today the car manufacturers and their R&Ds are doing a lot in terms of EV development. But how about the science world? What kind of input science world has to offer for the electrical vehicles transformation or revolution?
Okay, so in my opinion, the global transformation towards electromobility is a challenge for both science and education. Universities are widely involved into these developments trends. For example, at the Lodz University of Technology, we are currently implementing research and development projects in this area. The first one is concerning the porous graphene-based materials for electrodes in lithium-ion batteries. And the second one is a low-pressure hydrogen tank with a graphene sorbent bed for powering small fuel cell electric vehicles, for example, the task cars, golf cars, etc. So, students are also interested and show the great activity in the field of electromobility. At the Lodz University of Technology, there is a students' research team, Lodz Solar team. Student designed and built 2 electric vehicles powered by photovoltaic panels and batteries. They participated in many races practically all over the world. The last vehicle can reach speed up to 140 kilometers per hour and travel at 2,400 kilometers at the last race. So concluding, the modern university must educate scientists and students of the future.
Sounds nice. My last question goes to Mr. Szuflak. We've beginning the discussion with Mr. Szuflak's speech, and I guess we will be closing it as well. So, as we heard, the electric vehicles are changing. They are going through a transformation. But we as a people, as customers, we are changing as well. So the question is, what are the expectations, what's the desires, and what's the need of modern customers toward car? What people are searching when they are searching for the new dream car?
Very good question. It's a really good question. I have made the quick calculation just a few minutes ago. Today on the market, we have more than 250 different models available on the markets in Europe. In the whole world, we have the 130 brands, passenger cars brands registered and who are selling their cars in the different countries. So if we have the one solution to build the dream car for the customer, if we have the only one dream car, then there is only one brand and maybe only one model. The people variety and the people expectation create that there is the so big numbers of the different models and the so big number of the different cars which the people are expecting from us today. Of course, we can see that we have some bigger trends and some bigger expectations. The cars are becoming bigger, the cars are becoming safer, the cars are becoming more luxury. And today, at the front of engineers, there is the completely different questions than just 20, 30, or 40 years ago. I can give you only one example. We were looking just some years ago for this, just to make a little bit safer cars. We were fighting for this to give to the cars fully available air condition. Today we have the big offer on the market with the cars of the 3-zone or even 4-zone air conditioning in the car. So the people preferences are changing. But coming back to my previous answer and to my previous speech, I would like to tell you one thing. That we are meeting that the people are talking less about the driving experience today, about the driving fast, about the curves, about the braking. The people are more talking and they are more expecting from us that we will offer the car as the living space. So the people are spending a lot, customers, they are spending a lot of time with the car, and they want to have the good music, they want to have the good sound, they want to have the comfortable seats. We are talking a lot about the autonomous cars, and this is also one of my personal dreams. I would like to have the car which gives me the possibility that I don't need to put so much attention. Just a few years ago, when Volkswagen Group has implemented the MQB platforms into the still traditional cars, we have put into the cars a lot of assistance. The number of the events, the number of the small accidents, crashes, whatever, has been reduced since that time by 60%. Today, I have in my car the button that I can ask all assistants for some period of time to work, and I can take out my attention for the driving. Can you imagine this 20 or 30 years ago? No, everybody just wanted, I want to drive my car, I want to feel my car, I want to change the gears. So this is the trend. This is something what is changing in our life. And I believe that it's very good that our customers in the different countries, they are expecting something different. Because luckily, still everyone has the choice. And luckily, it's also the very good motivation for us to build the better and the better adjusted to the customer expectation cars. As long as we don't need to produce the one car in the one model, in one color, I think that this is something what really of the automotive industry into the people's minds.
Okay, thank you very much for interesting answer. Well, I guess the heat treatment was supporting an automotive market since the very beginning of its existence. And now when the automotive is going through the biggest transformations since all the time, I guess the heat treatment is simply following its steps. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much to our guest.